So in this video, you're gonna watch me build $1 million high ticket sales script, but probably not the type of script that you're thinking of. Okay, over the last few years, I've done a few million as a closer. I've also led and managed high ticket sales teams, selling for some of the largest online coaches in the world, working with people like Tai Lopez and many others. And what I can tell you from experience is that the sales scripts that most offers use right now are the exact reason why so many closers right now are struggling, because they put together this massive Google document. They expect their closers to memorize specific analogies and words, and it just doesn't happen, and you suffer because of that. In this video, what I'm going to do for you is I'm actually going to build a high ticket sales script live. But most importantly, I want to show you how to think at different stages of the call and how to understand the different goals that you need to hit throughout a high ticket sales process. That way, you can actually take what you learn in this video, apply it to your next sales call in a way that's natural, it's authentic. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing that you need to understand, okay, memorizing sales scripts equals, broke salesperson behavior. All right. Like trying to read a paragraph and trying to memorize that paragraph. What's going to happen is naturally when you try to execute that on a sales call, it's going to come off as inauthentic. Okay. You need to understand that our industry right now is in what's known as a trust recession. Our prospects have talked to a bunch of salespeople before. They've had a bunch of bad experiences. And our number one goal with this framework that I'm going to be explaining to you today is we want to get ourselves out of the box that our prospect puts us in, right? We want to get ourselves out of that, this guy is a salesperson box. We want to be the total opposite of that. And that's where our sales framework is going to come into play, okay? What we want is a sales framework that's going to allow us to hit a certain set of goals throughout a sales call, which are going to allow us to move the needle forward and get our prospect closer to the sale. All right. And what you want to do is you want to understand what those goals are, what those stages are within a conversation. You want to understand different ways that you can accomplish those goals, but you don't want to read a script while you're going about accomplishing them. Okay. So I'm going to show you exactly how we do this across all the sales teams that I manage. This process that I'm going to be breaking down in today's video is responsible for over $40 million in high ticket sales revenue across all kinds of niches, across all kinds of price points. And if you stick with me for the entirety of this video, you're not only going to understand how we approach this, but you're also going to understand how you can actually apply this to your next sales call. That way you can make more money, have a better lifestyle, and do all the things that you want to do because of sales. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. We can remove this because just to keep this clean. There are 10 steps to a high ticket sales call. Vision, challenge, consequence, show the gap, gain commitment, self-solution, and presentation. Okay. Now 10 steps might seem like a lot. It's actually super straightforward. Let me take you through this all step by step. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing with each stage is I'm going to break down number one, the goal within the stage. And then I'm going to show you how we go about accomplishing that goal. Okay. So in our introduction, let's get started. Just to keep it simple, right? Goal in introduction is to break sales resistance. Okay. Very simple. All right. We want to break the sales resistance. We want to break the ice, okay? In our situation phase and really throughout the call, we want to collect a lot of information. So we want to get ourselves out of that salesperson mold as early as possible. That way our prospect feels totally comfortable with us and they can, start talking about all of their pains and all the things that they don't like about their life. And, we can create some urgency, right? But first, we need to break sales resistance, okay? So there's really two approaches here, okay? So my go-to approach will be, the no bullshit approach. Okay. No bullshit, right? So something along the lines of, hey, how's it going? The whole hey, what's up? How's it going? Good. How are you? I'm good. Right. Hey, how's it going? Great. So I'm pretty slammed out today with meetings. Want to make sure we can make the most of our time today. You good to just go ahead and get started? Great, right? So this is kind of communicating that, again, you're a high performer, you're busy, you got a lot of people who are trying to talk to you, who are trying to join your program. Let's just get straight down to business, right? So, hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, doing pretty good. How are you? Yeah, I'm good, man. Can't complain. Pretty slammed out today with meetings. I do want to make sure that we can make the most out of our time today. Are you good to just go ahead and get started? Okay, great. No bullshit, down to business. We don't have time to waste. Get straight to it, right? This is fine. Now, the other approach would be to actually break the ice, right? So I used to just try to break the ice on every single call. And I would encourage you to develop this skill, right? There's a lot of salespeople right now that just are like super weird and introverted and they don't know how to talk to people or have a back and forth with anybody. So they just jump straight into their script. You do not want to be that person. Now, when I would break the ice, I mean, again, the no bullshit approach is going to be good if your prospect already knows you, they've booked the call, there's no need to, go ahead and break the ice. But I would use this whenever I notice my prospect is like kind of closed off. Maybe they're kind of nervous. Maybe they're like giving me, I'm saying like, hey man, how's it going? And they're like, I'm good. How are you? I'm going to want to break down the ice a little bit before I jump into my agenda, right? Because again, I want to get out of that mold. I want to get my prospect comfortable with me before we jump into all the questions that we're going to jump into, right? So how do we break the ice? What most salespeople do is they'll break the ice with like, hey man, so like, where are you based out of? And that's the dumbest thing in the world. I would never say that. And the reason why is because every other salesperson says that. I don't care where you're based out of. You know that I don't care about where you're based out of. So why are we talking about it? Why are we having this bullshit conversation right now, right? So I would avoid that. Things like, oh, hey man, like how's the weather out there? Or like, hey, I have a buddy who lives out there too. Like bullshit like that is completely unnecessary and both parties know that it's bullshit. So I would just stay away from it, right? How do we break the ice? Let me give you two go-tos, okay? Good, why not great? This is a good one. My mentor taught me this in like my second week of sales five years ago, and I still use it to this day. Like when you say, hey man, how's it going? And they're like, I'm good, how are you? Or like, I'm okay, how are you? You'd be like, man, good. Why not great, man? It's Monday morning, what's going on? Right? You kind of like tease them a little bit, you kind of laugh as you go through that. That's a really good one. Really simple and easy way to get somebody to open up and break out of their little weird shell that they might be in. Or number two is make a comment on their background. Right? So again, we want to avoid like the basic icebreakers that everybody uses, and we want to, have a genuine icebreaker, right? So one of the best ways to just like break the ice with someone on a sales call, or really just in general, when you're talking to anybody, is to make an observation, right? Make an observation in terms of what you see on the screen, their background, what they're wearing, whatever, right? So, if I was talking to myself, I might say, hey man, what's going on? Is that a freaking Lego Ferrari behind you? That's crazy, man. I love Legos. That's awesome, dude. Love the setup. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump in, right? I might make a comment like that. I might say, I was talking to somebody the other day and they had like some plant with like vines all over it behind them. And I was like, yo, that's a crazy plant you got behind you, bro. Did you, do you water that thing yourself? And he's like, oh no, man, I'm actually, at my grandma's house. I'm like, dude, what are you doing at your grandma's? This guy's like 30 years old. What are you doing at your grandma's house, man? You're just being a good grandson? Yeah, ha, ha, ha. Back and forth. Boom. Then we get into it. Okay. So break the ice, make a comment on their background. So many like salespeople now who get into our industry, they're just like weird and introverted and they don't have the, ability to like have a quick back and forth with someone that's genuine, that makes everybody smile. And like, I get it because I was kind of that way too. I was definitely that way when I first started out in sales. Quick side note, if you are bad at this, if you do not feel comfortable breaking the ice and getting to know somebody in, 20, 30 seconds, the actionable that I would give you is every single time you leave the house, talk to 5 people. Every person that you see in the elevator, when you're checking out at Starbucks, when you're just walking around, start conversations with random people in real life. Make observations based on what's going on around you or what they're going through or whatever. Start conversations, learn how to break the ice, develop the skill set, because the best closers within the first 30 seconds of a sales call, they can just totally ease all of the tension, all of the uncomfort, all of the resistance, and get your prospect to like really like you within the first 30 seconds of a call, right? You can't make a first impression twice. So I would highly, highly encourage you to develop this skill set of breaking the ice, and until you do, you can just stick with the no bullshit, more authority-based approach, okay? One more point when it comes to intro, very important. is you want to be the one to break off the back and forth, right? There was this one closer that I worked with out in Australia, and he was just like a super friendly guy, super easygoing, really easy to talk to, good dude. But the problem is like I listened to his sales calls, and this guy would spend sometimes like 3 minutes, 4 minutes in this introduction section talking back and forth with his prospect. And the problem with that, because you might think like, oh, this guy's, getting to know his prospect. He's building good rapport with them. You might think that that's a good thing. But the problem with that is you are communicating that your time is not valuable, right? You're communicating something, yeah, we could just chit chat, back and forth. It doesn't mean anything. My time's not that valuable. And, now your status is going to drop, right? Being like friendly with someone is not the same as building rapport. You do not want to do that. It's going to make your prospect look at you in lower status, right? And they're not going to buy from you. So you want to be the one to break off the back and forth, right? We're talking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, man. Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm pretty slammed out today with meetings. Want to make sure we can make the most out of our time. You good to go? Great. Like I would just kind of go to this to cut off the intro and the back and forth. Okay. Very simple introduction. Can't make a first impression twice. So get at it. Okay. Next, we have the agenda. What's happening in the agenda, right? So very straightforward. Our goal in this is to essentially, set the tone for the call, explain how the combo will go, and take authority, right? Is really the key. Autocorrect. There we go. Take authority. This is number one, right? So how do we do that? Number one, I like a reminder of where they're at in the sales process, right? So something along the lines of, okay, cool. So looks like you ran into an ad from us last night and you scheduled this call because you wanted to learn more about what it would look like working with our team to scale your business. Is that right? So like here we're kind of just, number one, I like dropping like, hey, so like I saw that you ran into an ad, or I saw that you came across our content on YouTube, or I saw that, you attended a webinar with us, right? It just shows that like you're in the know and you're on top of your shit. And we're kind of just reminding them of where they're at in the sales process, right? And you scheduled this call because you wanted to learn more about what it would look like working with our team to scale your business. Is that right? Right? So because you wanted to learn more about our high ticket offer, which will allow you to get to, dream outcome, right? So this is important because sometimes people will like hop on calls and like they're not sure, is this a sales call? Is this like a value call? Like what's this call all about? Like I said, one of our goals here is to explain how the conversation will go and to lead with transparency. So we kind of just want to, make that clear and just set the tone. Hey, you're here to learn more about what it's going to look like working with us to grow your business, right? And you can to scale your Amazon business or to scale your, TikTok business or whatever, right? This is the first stage of it. Second is to, set the agenda, right? So great. What I'd like to do here, or what I'd like to do on the call is start out with a couple of questions just to get to know more about you and where you want to take this. If I feel like we can help, awesome. We'll get into what that looks like towards the end of the call. Sound good? Great. So what we're doing here is we're setting the agenda, right? We're letting them know, hey, this is really where we're taking control, right? Like we're letting them know, okay, great. Like I'm going to take you through a bunch of questions. I want to understand where you're at now. I want to understand where you want to go. That way I can make sure that we can actually help you. As long as I feel that we can, awesome. We can get into what that looks like towards the end of the call, right? Very simple, very straightforward. One note that I would give you here, tonality should be, calm authority, right? Think like calm authority figure, right? So there's a couple ways you can set the agenda, right? Like you can be like, super chill, for example, right? You can be like, great. Well, like, really, man, like what I want to do on the call, just want to start out with a couple questions just to get to know more about you and where you want to take this. And, if we can help, awesome. I'll show you how, right? Way too casual, right? Now there's not going to take the conversation very seriously and you're not positioning yourself as an authority to start off a call, right? Or on the flip side, you could go like super alpha authority. You can be like, great. So what I want to do on this call, I want to ask you a few questions to understand where you are and where you want to go to make sure that you'd be a good fit for us. You can already tell that that's way too much. Now, if you have a prospect, maybe with like a little bit more of an ego, now they're going to resist and they're going to fight you on that authority because you're trying to like, big dick your prospect, right? Don't be that guy. You just want calm authority, right? So like this is something that I started doing when I started talking to, I remember I sold on and off offer. This is actually for Ty Lopez. Like super high ticket mastermind that we were selling at the time, like 25, 50, 100K packages, talking to millionaires all day, every day. So I remember I was like, hey, like I really want to, make sure I have control over these calls and these prospects actually respect me, right? So one of the adjustments that I made, which helped me so much, this tiny adjustment, was I would just say the agenda. I would just speak slower as I went through it. And it allowed me to, set the tone, start out a conversation and communicate to this multimillionaire that, I know what I'm doing. I'm confident. I'm running this call and, they would respect me as an authority in the first, minute or two on the call, barely doing anything. The tonality, really what it's like is, okay, great. Well, what I'd like to do here on the call, Mr. Prospect, a lot of times if you say their name, there's a lot of authority there. Great. So what I'd like to do here on the call, John, I just want to start out with a couple questions just to get to know a bit more about you and, really where you want to take all of this. If I feel that we can help you, awesome. We'll talk more about what that would look like towards the end of the call. That sound good? I'm taking my time through the agenda. That's the key point, right? Is I'm comfortable. I'm moving at my own speed. I'm not rushing. That's instantly going to set you apart as an authority. That's a quick, hack for you. Okay, great. So now we get into situation. So our goal in situation, we have a couple of goals here. Okay. Number one is, again, we do want to build rapport, right? We want to get our prospect to be, comfortable with us. We want our prospect to like us. We want to analyze our prospect type, right? What's their personality, move away / towards, right? In short, move away and towards. We want to understand, are they more motivated by what they're moving away from? Are they more motivated by what they're moving towards? We want to gauge, all kinds of things, right? But really personality, move away and move towards. We want to find pain points and, really dig deep on these, right? That's like goal number one, right? Is we want to find pain points in order to create urgency. Okay. So key point for situation and key point for pain points. All right. A lot of people think like urgency is, like you need to buy now or else you're going to lose your spot. That's what's known as pressure. Urgency is an internal force getting your prospect to act now. Okay. So that's coming from within. Essentially, urgency is when the pain of staying in the same situation exceeds the discomfort of taking action, right? So when the way that we create urgency and the way that we get our prospect to feel their pain more is to get them to articulate it, right? Because the reality is just with human beings is most humans, they do not like talking about their pain. And most people will go through life and, they will have certain things that they don't like about their situation. They're not making enough money. They don't have the freedom. They don't have time with their family. Their spouses don't respect them, whatever. They experience these problems, but they bottle it up and they just repress it and they don't talk to anybody about it because it's easier to just like diminish the pain and try to forget about it and not think about it than to actually solve it, right? But in our case, we want to help our prospects solve that pain. So step number one is to get our prospect to articulate that pain out loud. Okay. And we want to reaffirm it. We want to get them, going deeper and talking about it out loud because now it becomes real. Now we can hold our prospect accountable to that pain. And a lot of the times they'll hold themselves accountable to that pain just by them talking about it. So let me explain actually how that works and what that looks like. So the way that we start out in situation is with a broad opener. We're going to get into, maybe like 2 to 3 context questions. We're going to listen for surface level pain, dig on present pain, or dig deep on present pain. Then we're going to transition into time experienced and turning point. Okay, so this is just a preface. Situation, I'm probably going to talk about this and maybe one other stage, probably challenge, which will come up in a second. Situation and challenge are really the two key sections of a sales call. Okay. Whenever a closer of mine or someone who I'm training is like, hey, I have this objection and I didn't know how to handle it, I always go back to situation and challenge because that's where, we can really learn everything that we need to know about our prospect and where we can really prevent almost all objections from happening. These are the two pivotal sections of a high ticket sales call. And by the way, like whenever I'm training a new closer, even someone with very little sales experience, like the way that I'm able to train closers closers and get them really awesome placements is by focusing specifically on situation and challenge. So, if you want to be a part of that training, I can train you within 30 days and get you on an offer. Information about that is linked down below. Okay, so let me explain how this actually works. Okay, broad opener. The question that you're always going to open with is, and it's actually not a question, is kick us off with a bit of a So this is the opener that you're going to start out with, okay? Is kick us off with a little bit of a background on yourself and, what motivated you to schedule a call, and I'll see if I can help, right? So this is not a question. This is technically it's a command, right? Is I'm telling my prospect to kick us off with a bit of a background. Again, authority, we want to maintain control. This is really good because as opposed to, like I see some sales scripts where people will start out with a really specific question where they'll say like, all right, great. So why do you want to get into XYZ business model? Or what's your biggest challenge with XYZ thing, right? And the problem with that is like, yes, those questions are important and you're going to get good information from it. But the problem is you're just going to get one little thing. You're going to get one response from that, right? And then now we have to ask like a million other questions to get the full scope of their situation and why they're actually here, right? So our goal with this opener is I want my prospect to just go on like a 1 to 2 minute explanation where they just break down, hey, so like this is where I'm at in my life, and like this is what I do for work, and I ran into your guys' stuff a couple months ago, and I really resonate with him, and I just want to make a change for XYZ reasons, and blah 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 blah. Right? This allows me to gauge a lot of these things, right? This allows me to learn more about my prospect. Now I can understand, okay, great. So like this person, I'm getting more information, great. Now I can slightly adjust my approach, right? As opposed to like going into all these questions completely blind, right? So broad opener, get a prospect to start talking, okay? 2 to 3 context questions. Our goal here is to, ask context questions, curiosity. The important thing here, right, because we're about to get into deep pain, right? And what we're going to be listening for really is surface level pain. That's the first thing that we're looking for. I'm going to explain what that is in a second. But before we get into that, I like to just simply ask usually like 2 to 3 questions out of complete curiosity, right? Let's say I'm talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I do aerospace engineering, I work on rocket ships, but I want to get into, this business model and make a change and have more freedom, blah, blah, blah. I'll take a second and be like, holy shit, dude, you said aerospace engineering? I don't know, I was talking to freaking Elon Musk over here. What got you into that? Oh yeah, man, my whole life, blah, blah, blah. My whole life I was super interested in rocket ships and science and all these different things and blah, blah, blah. Okay, gotcha. And like, man, like, is that something that, like you genuinely enjoy? Like, do you love it? Oh, I used to love it, but now recently, like it's become a little bit of a drag. Hang on. You said it's a little bit of a drag. Like what exactly do you mean by that? That is the service level pain, right? So it's like the way that you're going to get your prospect to start talking about like pain really is, well, to get their guard low enough for them to start opening up is with 2 to 3 context questions out of complete curiosity, right? Again, this is back to where we get ourselves out of the mold of a typical salesperson. Be interested in people and questions are going to just pop into your mind. Ask the question that comes to your mind. Ask what you're curious about. And you'll find that you'll gain like really insightful information on your prospect. And most importantly, they'll start opening up about surface level pain, right? The problem that they're on this call to actually solve. What is surface level pain, right? So anything like, not loving what I'm doing anymore, not making enough money, things are inconsistent. I'd like to get my time back. I'm getting older, stuff like this, right? Where it's like, these are pain points that are on the surface. Now, a lot of amateur closers will hear that, right? I want to get my time back. And go like, okay, cool. So that's his pain point. He wants to get his time back. And then they move on, right? No, that's not what you're going to do. We are going to dig deeper on it. So we're listening for anything that is a surface level pain point. Okay, our ears are perked up the entire time that they're talking. And we're waiting for them to reveal something about their situation that they don't like. Okay? And then what we're going to do to dig deeper is we're going to mirror and define. Okay, this step right here, this strategy, okay, this sales technique is probably the simplest and most effective sales technique that you're going to learn in this video. Okay, this strategy, which I'm going to explain here in a second, this is going to allow you to get your prospect to open up and go deep on a lot of touchy subjects, with you having to ask like extremely simple questions and you barely having to use any energy whatsoever. And you can use this strategy throughout basically every single stage on the call, and you can use it over and over and over again. It is so effective when you get good at doing it. So what actually is this, right? Step one is to repeat back what you heard in your own words, in less words ideally. Okay, and then so let's say, yeah, I'm in aerospace engineering. I love it. I'm super passionate about it. But like recently, it's been super busy, and like they're cutting a lot of people off of work. There's a lot of layoffs right now, and I don't know. I'm just a little bit uncertain with my future with the company, and kind of at a point where I want to make a change. So okay, gotcha. So like what you're saying is you've been working at the aerospace company for a few years now. It was something originally that you liked, but recently it seems like there's a lot of politics going on, and you're less certain with your future with the company. Is that right? That's repeating back what they just said. A lot of the times when you just repeat back what you just heard, you show understanding, you show you give a fuck. And a lot of the times I'll just repeat it back. Yeah, and on top of that, I'm thinking about my retirement right now, and I'm going to have to work a lot, probably a couple more decades, and I'd like to be able to retire sooner, right? You'll just repeat back what you just heard, and then they will build on it. They'll add to it, where you use zero energy to get your prospect to open up more about their pain. So okay, gotcha. And on top of that, you're also kind of thinking about retirement. In addition to everything that you just said, right? Okay, gotcha. So I guess like when you say like you're less certain about your future with the company, like you've been there for 10 years, like what exactly do you mean by that? Right? I'm clarifying you're less certain about the company. Or for example, someone says, I'm not making enough money, or things are inconsistent is a good one, right? Yeah, I'm working this job. I've been in sales now for the last, 5 years, and like things are good. Like I really like it. I just, recently things have been kind of inconsistent, and, I'm thinking of considering different opportunities that I can get into. Okay, gotcha. So you've been at the company now for a few years. Seems like you're doing well. But recently things have been inconsistent, and that's why you're looking into different opportunities. Is that right? Gotcha. And when you say things are inconsistent, like what exactly do you mean by that? Yeah, well, there's been the market and the economy, and they're fucking with our commission checks, and blah blah blah. Okay, gotcha. The economy, and then on top of that, they're also cutting your commissions. Wow. Okay, interesting. And like, how much of an effect has that had on your paychecks every month? Yeah, man, I mean, it's been pretty significant, blah, blah, blah. Wow, okay. And like, how's that been on you? Yeah, honestly, man, like really tough, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, we wanna get deep, right? How is this pain affecting them, personally? What direct, effects has this pain had on them, right? So like, for example, like, if you can get specific where it's like, I'm missing my kids' baseball games, or, yeah, I'm making 30% less every single month now. Or, whatever, right? If we can get specific, good. That's what we want to do. How is it affecting them personally? Tonality, as you're going through all of this, is concern, right? Concern slash curious, right? Where it's like, hey man, so like, how has that affected you personally? Okay, so like just curious, man. Like, how has all of that been on you, right? Now, tonality is important, because if you're just like, okay, gotcha. So how's that been on you? Now it feels salesy. Now it feels like a sales technique, and they're less likely to actually open up, right? Kind of similar to the approach in context questions is like, we just genuinely give a fuck about our prospect, and they're telling us about their pain. We want them to keep talking about it. So we're going to show concern, right? So like, man, like how's all of that been on you, right? And then it's going to make them much more likely to really open up about their pain and really start feeling it. So once we've gone deep on present pain, now we get into time experienced. Okay, so what you want to understand is it's the equation here, okay, is present pain multiplied by time experienced plus turning point equals your level of urgency created, okay? So time experienced, what this question is, I mean, pretty simple. It's just going to be like, so how long has this been going on for, right, when it comes to their pain or their problem? right? So let me give you a really important point when it comes to time experience. This question is always going to be a good question. You're always going to ask it basically on every single call. And you're always going to get a good response out of it. Like it's always going to move the needle in terms of urgency, right? Now, what most closers do is they rush into this question. And, because of that, they don't create the urgency that they need to, right? So the deeper that we can get on present pain, multiplied by time experience, is going to allow us to get more urgency, right? So if present pain, for example, and I'll explain this in a sec, but if present pain is like at a level 2 and time experience has been for 10 years, then okay, we get urgency level of 20 in this case, right? But if we get present pain of 2, then we dig deeper, and then all of a sudden that present pain becomes a 7, now 7 times 10. Right. So like, let me give you an example, right? If someone says like, yeah, man, I'm just, I'm not really making enough money. Right. Okay, cool. So like, how long have you really felt that way? Like you haven't been making enough money. Yeah. I mean, it's been about like 3 years I've been thinking about it. Right. It's like, okay, not terrible. Right. We have something, but if I'm not making enough money. Okay. But when you say you're not making enough money, like what exactly do you mean by that? Right. We're mirror and defining here. Yeah, man. I mean, I guess, it just, there's a lot of things I feel like I'm missing out on. There's a lot of things I'm not really able to do right now. Okay. Like, and, I guess when you say there's certain things you can't really do right now, like what exactly are you referring to? Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not able to take my parents on vacations. I'm not able to help out my kids. I'm not able to save up for the future. Gotcha. Parents, kids, savings, investments. Wow. And like, how has that affected you? Like, you're not able to provide for the people around you the way that you want to. Yeah, man, I mean, it's been really hard, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. So now we get into, like everything that you just mentioned there, how long has all that been going on for? You see just how much stronger urgency becomes when we save our time experience question for when we've fully gone as deep as we can into present pain. Right. So just, keep that in mind. The turning point is going to be what was the moment you needed to actually or what was the moment you realized you needed to make a change. Right. So it's like a lot of people will experience their pain for maybe years. And then there was like there was a shift when they realized that they needed to do something about it. Right. A lot of the times. And even if you think of like moments in your life, right, there's probably certain things where, I don't know, maybe you were like fat for a few years. Right. And you were kind of just okay with it. And then like a girl like said, yo, like, you're too fat. I don't want to date you. And then like that was the moment when you were just like, all right, I'm going to turn into a fitness freaking machine. There was a moment. There was something that somebody said to you. There was something that happened. There was something that flipped the switch that made you say enough is enough and I'm going to make a change. That's what we want to find here with our prospect. So, okay, so it's been going on for 3 years. I guess for you, like what was the moment you realized you really needed to make the change? Right? Sometimes it'll be like, maybe somebody is getting laid off. Maybe they're seeing people get laid off from their business. Maybe somebody like had a baby. Maybe someone just got married. Maybe somebody like just turned 30. You know what I mean? Like there's moments like that come up a lot. We want to figure out what those things are, right? So really, we want to find out all of these things, and then depending on your offer, we also want to, find out experience level with the opportunity, right? So once I get through all of this, I'll probably find out, okay, cool, gotcha. And like, have you actually done, any type of sales before? Okay, great. Have you actually built any online business in the past? And I'll just have them kind of explain their experience to me, right? Pretty straightforward on that. Sometimes we'll do that. A lot of times they'll just bring that up on their own. Again, main goal here, just to kind of recap, broad opener, couple context questions just to break the ice, get them comfortable, get them talking. The entire time we're listening very intently for surface level pain. I can't tell you how many times a closer comes to me and they're like, yo, I can't find this person's pain. I don't think he has any pain. And then we go back, listen to the call, and then they just like didn't listen closely enough and they missed an obvious massive pain point, and then that was the reason why they didn't close, right? So I want to listen very intently. Once you find it, you mirror and define a couple times, deep on present pain, time experience, turning point, boom, we move on, right? I talked a lot there, but really situation is probably going to be about like 5 to 7 minutes long, okay? Now, let's get into vision. So our goal in vision is to really get our prospect to describe their dream outcome, okay? Dream outcomes. This is what we sell in our industry. We are selling dreams. We are selling vehicles and programs that will help our prospect accomplish their results, right? In the high ticket industry, the reason why our space is so successful and the reason why it is blowing up and it is actually projected, I saw a stat recently, I think by 2035, it's projected to be bigger than the pharmaceutical industry, the online coaching and education industry. The reason why our space is exploding is because there is no other industry that has the kinds of transformations that our industry has, where you can buy a course, spend a couple $1,000, and within 6 months, learn a skill set, create a new income stream, achieve complete financial, time, location freedom, like in less than a year, right? You can completely change your life with the right information and with the right skill sets, right? And that's just reflected in how fast our industry is growing. We are selling dreams. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as your offer can actually help your prospect accomplish their dreams, and it's ethical, right? That goes without saying. In the vision stage, we want to get our prospect to describe their dream outcome, and we want them to get specific about it, right? So we're going to start out similar to situation, broad vision. We're going to figure out what their broad vision is. We're going to get specific with that vision. So we're going to go from broad to specific. And then we want to get like the emotional side of it. So I'll explain that in a sec. Super straightforward. You're going to start out with, great, so take me through some of your goals with, XYZ opportunity, whatever your opportunity is, right? It's intentionally broad, right? Take me through some of your goals with this. What is top of their mind? What are they already thinking of? One of the things that I'm gauging, actually, another, goal here as a side note is, we're gauging belief level, right? So especially with this question right here, right? What you'll find, and this is one of the things that you want to watch as a closer. You don't want to be the guy who handles everything at the end of the call. Like, you want to be the guy that prevents objections from coming up. So it's like, I'll give you this tip. After taking tens of thousands of sales calls, what I can tell you for a fact is that people who accomplish their goals, they're the ones who are clear on their goals. Most people, they're afraid to set a defined, clear goal because they deep down don't believe that they can get there. And they know that if they set a goal, they're just going to let themselves down. So when we ask our prospect this broad question, great, so take me through some of your goals with this, right? Now I'm going to be able to gauge my prospect's belief level. One prospect might say, yeah, my goal is, by the end of this year, I want to fully leave my job and I want to be making 10 grand a month with this new opportunity. That person has a high level of belief versus someone who says, yeah, my goals, I don't know, like, I don't want to put a cap on myself. Sometimes people say that. I don't know. I guess I just want to see if it works for me first. And then if it does, I'll see if I can take it to a different level, right? We're gauging our belief level, or our prospect's belief level, by the way that they talk about their goals and their vision. Now we want to go from broad to specific. So to accomplish, XYZ, what would you need to be bringing in with your business, right? So to be able to actually step away from your job and, create the kind of freedom that you want, what would you need to be bringing in with your business, right? We want to turn their broader goal into a specific number, like how much needs to be coming in with the business. This is for biz op stuff, right? But if you're, let's say, a fitness offer, right? So, for you to be able to, have more energy and have the confidence that you want, I guess what body weight would you want to be at? Right? You want to get a specific number, right? Because now we can spend the rest of the call talking about how we're going to get to that number. Okay. Now, let's say they give you resistance here. So if they're like, I don't know, I don't want to put a cap on myself. I don't want to, I don't want to set a goal because really the sky's the limit, blah, blah. They give you some bullshit like that if they don't want to set a specific goal, because you'd be surprised. A lot of people do that. So the first approach really is to do this. So let's say you go, great, give me some of your goals when it comes to XYZ. I don't really know. I don't really have a set goal. I don't know what I want to accomplish. Okay, cool. Well, you mentioned earlier that you want to be able to replace your 9 to 5, right? Okay, great. So to actually replace your 9 to 5, what would you need to be bringing in with your business, right? So that would be a good way to get from broad to specific, right? Is you literally just do what I just said. Or another way is with a label, right? Okay, gotcha. We've worked with a couple hundred people when it comes to XYZ. And from what we found is the people who are most successful are very clear about their goals. So for you, let's start with the end in mind, and we can put together a game plan on how we can get there. This is a really good little 1-2 that you can drop on your prospect. right? So they're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to really set a goal. I don't really know what I can accomplish. Okay, gotcha. Well, I mean, from what we've seen after working with a couple hundred people in XYZ industry, is that the people who are most successful with this, when they start, they're really clear on a goal, right? They have a number, they have an amount, they have a target that they're working towards, right? So for you, I mean, like, let's start with the end in mind, and we can put together a game plan on how we can actually get there. What would that goal for you be? What would that first target be? Right? Now, what we've done is we've associated success with people who are clear on their goals, right? And you can use this throughout the call. Like, you can even use this in situation where it's like, maybe if you're running into resistance with a situation, they're not really opening up about any pain points. You can be like, okay, gotcha. And like, I've had conversations with a few hundred people getting into XYZ businesses. And from what I've found is the people who are most successful with this, all of them, they're very clear on why they want to get into this. They know the exact thing that they want to change, and then that's what fuels them to actually go and see the results. So for you, like, what's really that why for you? What's that motivator that's going to get you the result that you want? So we're associating a behavior that we want from our prospect with success, which is going to make them a lot more likely to now align with the behavior that we want them to align with. Okay. So broad goal, take me through some of your goals. Okay, great. So like, what would you need to be bringing in with the business? Okay, gotcha. So what you're saying is like, you want to be able to leave your job, and to be able to do so, you need to be bringing in at least like 10K a month, but ultimately you want to take this up to 20 grand a month and then much more. Is that right? Okay, great. Gotcha. And let me ask you, once you actually hit that goal, after working that job for the last, 10 years, how would it actually feel when you're making tens of? So this one is like, again, tonality, curiosity. Our goal is to get our prospect to start visualizing their goal, right? So once we've kind of gotten specific, now it's like, okay, gotcha. And let me ask you, once you actually hit that goal, especially after working that job for the last 10 years, how would it actually feel when you're making tens of thousands of dollars off your laptop? Like, how does that change things for you? Right? A question like that with the tonality that I just gave you, right? Where it's like curiosity, I want you to start visualizing that goal, right? But it feels like a casual question, right? It feels like I'm just like asking, and like, man, like how would that feel, bro? Like when you go from working that to being able to do tens of thousands of dollars a month off your phone. Like, how does that change things for you, man? Right? Oh my God, it would do this, it would do that, it would do this. Now they start visualizing it. Okay, cool. So that's vision. Now, challenge. Okay. Like I said, this is probably the most important stage of the call, either this or situation. Our goal is to really two things. Okay. Number one, identify exactly why our prospect hasn't accomplished their dream outcome yet. Okay. And this usually isn't what you think. And number two is to have our prospect take full accountability. Okay. Very important. So how are we going to go about doing this? And I'll explain, kind of what these goals, how this fits into the, this stage of the call as we go. Okay. So there's a couple stages here. All right. We start out with timeline. Usually we're going to get the excuse from our prospect. That's where we find the excuse or what they think. And I'll explain what I mean there in a second. We get to the limiting belief, and then we have coaching moment. So let me explain what I'm doing here. So we wrap up with vision. We finish up vision, and now we want to figure out how long have they actually been wanting to make this change? How long has this been, something that's been on their mind? Don't get confused here. Sometimes people will say, yeah, I've been hating my job. I've been here for the last 5 years, and I've been experiencing this pain for 5 years. Gotcha. So when did you really realize that you wanted to make the change? It was actually last year, right? So the time that people experience pain is often very different from the time that someone decides to make a change, right? So we want to establish that right here. And this is going to make the rest of our conversation and challenge a lot more powerful, right? So gotcha. So how long have you been wanting to make this change for? They might say like, it's been 2-3 years. Let's say, they say, well, it's been about like 2 years that I've been wanting to make the change. Okay. So in those 2 years, what steps have you taken to get started? Now, the way that you're asking this question, a lot of the times in any like B2C environment, really any biz op, and honestly with most offers, right? If somebody is on, and this is really important, if someone is on the call with you today, what that means is that they don't have the results that they want, right? Therefore, if they don't have the results that they want, either they haven't taken the action necessary or they've been taking the wrong action. Either one or the other. There's no alternative. They might make a bunch of excuses and limiting beliefs, but at the end of the day, they haven't taken the actions necessary because of some kind of limiting belief, or they've been taking the wrong actions, probably because of limiting beliefs or because they were misinformed. Okay. What we want to figure out is, what are those limiting beliefs? What were the things that actually held this person back? I want to get our prospect to take accountability over those things. So these two questions, these are going to be like, you want to be like nonchalant about it, right? Because we don't want to get our prospects' guard up here. Sometimes people will be like, okay, so like, how long have you been trying to make this change? Gotcha. So like in the last 2 years, like what steps have you actually taken to get something started? There's like an accusation in your tone. You're accusing them of not taking action, which again, since they're on the call, they obviously haven't taken the action necessary. We can assume that that's the case. However, we don't want to accuse it yet, right? We just want to like give them the benefit of the doubt for a second, right? So this is where they're going to expose their excuse, right? So like, okay, so it's been 2 years. I mean, I guess like what's been holding you back from getting something started? Yeah, I just, I haven't had a lot of time, right? Or I just don't know where to start, or I don't have the right guidance. These are all examples of excuses, right? So excuses you'll hear, right? Don't have time, don't have money. These are all excuses, guys, and I'll explain to you why in a second. Don't have guidance, don't know where to start, etc. These are external factors that our prospect is blaming, right? Our goal is to have our prospect take full accountability and ownership that they are the reason why they are not seeing the results that they want, right? Once we've created that frame where a prospect says, yeah, fuck, the reason why I'm broke and unhappy, it's my fault. It's no one else's. Sure, I haven't had the guidance. I haven't had total clarity on where to start. But at the end of the day, I didn't take the initiative to actually figure those things out. So I'm the reason why I'm in the situation that I'm in. And I'm also the reason why I can get out of it and I can take control over my future outcomes, which makes your prospect more likely to actually buy your high ticket offer at the end of the call. Okay. So these are all excuses, and we're not going to set a tone on our call, or we're not going to set a precedent where it's okay for our prospect to bullshit themselves, right? Because that's exactly what these things are. So how do we actually get to limiting belief? How do we overcome these things to get our prospect to own that they are the reason why they haven't gone started, not any of these other things, right? Okay, so it's mainly been, XYZ excuse, right? Again, mirror and define, right? Okay, gotcha. So like mainly, you have a lot going on in your life. Like you got work, you have family, you have, things going on. And like, you just haven't really been able to find the time, it sounds like. Is that right? Yeah, exactly. So like we show understanding, we show some empathy here, right? Now it's like, okay, and what's been stopping you from overcoming that excuse, right? So like, if someone says, yeah, I just haven't had the time. Okay, gotcha. And at the end of the day, I mean, like, time is really it's not about making time, it's about finding time, right? I guess like for you, like what's been stopping you from like finding the time that you would need to get into this? Or if someone says, I don't know where to start. Okay, for sure. And I guess like what's been stopping you from like figuring out where to start? I don't have the guidance. Okay, so what's been stopping you from finding the guidance, right? All these things are very easy to solve, right? And the reason why they weren't solved is limiting beliefs you'll hear. I actually have a document with these. Common limiting beliefs that you'll hear, and I have like a full document of basically every possible excuse and limiting belief that we have for our private clients. Like I said, if you want to learn more about that, link down below. But I'll give you a little taste of kind of what you can expect when it comes to limiting beliefs, right? These are like the core reasons why people don't take action, right? And these are the limiting beliefs that we want our prospects to admit to and take accountability and ownership of right now on this call, okay? And I'll explain why in a second. Fear of failure, okay? Lack of belief in themselves, and I'll touch on that, or complacency / cope. Okay. So fear of failure, what's important is you need to understand, really guys, this video, like, yes, I'm walking you through a lot of questions and things that you can ask, but it's less about what to say, and it's more about how to actually think through this, okay? As a closer, you need to be an expert on your prospects' limiting beliefs, right? Expertise comes down to your ability to understand your prospects' problems better than they do, right? So what that means is like you need to understand your prospects' limiting beliefs better than they do. Fear of failure, people aren't afraid of failure. People aren't afraid of losing money. People spend insane amounts of money on complete crap all the time, right? Your prospect is spending thousands of dollars betting on sports, but they're afraid to drop a couple $1,000s to build a business that could completely change the trajectory of their life, right? Why? Because they're not afraid of losing money, even though they might say they are, right? Deep down, what they're afraid of is proving to themselves or proving to the people around them that they're a failure, right? Lack of belief. A lot of times people will say, oh, I don't know if all these businesses are going to work for me, or I don't know if I trust these gurus out there, right? At the end of the day, they're projecting their lack of belief in themselves onto the gurus or the business models, right? Because, I mean, simply, if someone says, yeah, I don't know if I really believe in these business models, right, for example. Okay, well, I mean, do you believe that there are people who are successful with online businesses? Or, do you think that they're all fake? No, I believe that there are people who are successful with online businesses, sure. Okay, and do you think that if you did the same things that those people did, that you would be successful too? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so you do believe in the business. It sounds like it might be, maybe there's a little bit of a lack of belief that you can be successful at the business. Where does that come from? Now we're getting into a limiting belief conversation, and now our prospect can take accountability over those things. Okay, last thing, complacency and cope. This is really the main one, okay, is because someone might be experiencing their pain, right? Like we touched on in situations, someone might be experiencing their pain for years, right? Where they know they want to make a change, but they do nothing about it. And the reason why is because their pain might be here, but then they say, oh, whatever, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'll just go turn on Netflix, go watch sports, or just go jerk off. I'll go, whatever. The people around me aren't doing so much better. So it's not, they start coping, right? To get the pain of staying in the same position, it starts to fall under the discomfort of taking action. That's why they do nothing about it, right? Because it's easier to have a shitty situation and to convince yourself it's not that bad than it is to say, yo, my situation fucking sucks and I need to do something about it ASAP, right? It's pretty uncomfortable. It comes to that realization for the majority of our population, right? If you can get your prospect to, it's been 2 years and we haven't even figured out where to start. What's been stopping you from doing that? Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honestly, I've just kind of been satisfied with my situation. I've kind of, convinced myself that it's not that bad. And, haven't done anything, because you're right. I could have figured out where to start, but I didn't. That's what we want to get to. That statement right there is we want our prospect to own one of these limiting beliefs right here. And when they do, great. Now we can move forward. Now, let me give you one more here, because again, people will fight to hold on to their, excuses and limiting beliefs because they actually believe that they're true, right? They actually believe that, hey, the reason why I'm not successful is because I just don't have time. Or the reason I'm not successful is because I just don't know where to start. Or it's no, you can overcome those things. The reason why you haven't overcame them is because of one of these things down below. Now, a lot of the times, what's been stopping you from overcoming that? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I've just been super busy, things have just been crazy. I just literally have not been able to find any time whatsoever. So in the case that your prospect continues to fight for their excuses and they won't take accountability, you can drop this question right here. It's really powerful, especially when you hit it correctly. So what you can say is, hang on. So I'm just struggling to understand. So what you're saying is that, you've known that, you have way more potential for the last 5 years and, you've been underpaid for those 5 years. And, the only thing that's been stopping you from finding a business model or an opportunity to, get to your goals is just the fact that you haven't had time. And in these last 5 years, we've literally never been able to find any type of time to do this. I might even say what's a time thing. I might say, okay, so what you're saying is basically what it's been 18 hours a day of work and family, and we haven't been able to find a single hour to commit towards business. Is that what you're saying right now? We're kind of just making it seem absurd, right? Hang on. So what you're saying is that for the last, 3 years, you've been working crazy hours, being, under insane stress, not making enough money. And, you've been trying to get out of it, but the only thing that's been stopping you from getting out of it is you just haven't figured out where to start. When you kind of put their whole situation into perspective, it just seems absurd. And then last thing that you can do, again, because this is an important stage of the call, and we do not want to move on an excuse. I will never let my prospect move on an excuse, because if they bullshit me here, or if I allow them to bullshit themselves here, then at the end of the call, they're just going to bullshit me again. And they're going to say, yeah, I just need to go do some research, figure it out, and then I'll get back to you. And then they never do anything because of the same thing that's been stopping them for the last few years, right? You need to understand that your prospect's challenge, this will be their objection if we don't address it right now. Right? I see this over and over again where, I have closers coming to me and they're like, yo, I just got this objection. Like, what should I have done to handle it? We go back to challenge. And then I'm like, yo, like, here was an example of, for the last 3 years, this guy has been making excuses and saying that it hasn't been the right time. And then now at the end of the call, he just said the exact same thing to you. He told you that it's not the right time for me to do this. Let me do it later. It's like, we could have figured out that for the last 3 years, he's been saying this to himself. We could have addressed it, prevented it, and then close the deal at the end of the call, right? This is where all of that happens, right? Okay, cool. Let's move on to the coaching moment. So once they've owned their limiting belief, that's really the first step, right? So gotcha. How long have you been trying to make this change? It's been 2 years. Okay, like in those 2 years, like what steps have you taken? I haven't really done much aside from watching some videos. Well, like what's been holding you back? Yeah, I don't have time, don't have money, don't have guidance, don't know where to start. Okay. So, it's mainly been you just don't know where to start, right? And I guess like what's been stopping you from figuring out how to start? Yeah, there's so much information out there. I don't know. Hang on, I'm just struggling to understand. So it's been like 3 years that you've known you've needed to make a change where like you haven't been able to provide for your family the way that you want to. And like the only thing that's been stopping you from doing something is the fact that you just haven't been able to figure out where to start. Like you just haven't done a couple Google searches to figure that out. Am I understanding correctly? Yeah, I guess when you put it like that, yeah, like from what I've found is that, a lot of the times, like, yes, I get it. Like there is a lot of information out there, right? And this is where we get into the coaching moment. So let me explain how to do this. Number one is we lead with empathy, okay? Explain situation/challenge back to them. Right. So like, listen, like I totally get it. Like you're brand new to this whole industry. It's just totally foreign to you. You probably don't know anybody in our space. And although you need to make a change, it seems like you've kind of just been putting it off and you haven't really taken the steps that you've needed to take because it's just been easier to kind of cope with your current situation than it is to actually change it. Is that right? Exactly like that. And because of that, so we lead with that. We lead with the empathy. We don't just completely shit on them, right? That's not what we're here to do, right? We're here to, number one, the way that you change somebody's mind, the way that you change somebody's thinking is by starting with showing them that you understand their position, right? Hey, listen, I get it. You're completely new, totally foreign to you. You don't know anybody in our industry. You already have a super busy schedule. So it's just been easier for you to accept the current position that you're in as opposed to actually doing something about it, right? Right. And because of that, you haven't been able to make any progress in these last 2 years towards, your ultimate goal of being able to take care of your family the way that you want to, right? Okay. Do you see this as another example, right? Let's say someone is saying, I was talking a lot about like time and don't know where to start. Let's say someone says they don't have guidance, right? Yeah, I just don't have any guidance. I just don't know how to do this. There's so much information out there. I just don't have the right guidance, right? Okay, gotcha. And I guess like what's been stopping you from like finding that guidance? Yeah, I guess it's, I've just been trying to like figure it out on my own and, I've been just trying to make it happen and I've seen some progress, but, I probably need to do a little bit more. Okay, well, you've known that like you need guidance obviously for a little while now, right? Like what's been stopping you from pursuing it? Yeah, I guess it's always a big risk. It's always a money you have to invest. And I guess I'm just kind of afraid of failure. Gotcha. Okay, well, like listen, man, I completely understand why, right? Because at the end of the day, you're brand new to all this. You've never really done it before. So like the thought of putting thousands of dollars towards coaching, like it's a big step. And it sounds like you've kind of just been pushing that off where, these last 2 years have gone by and you really haven't been able to make any progress because of it. Is that right? Cool. And like, do you see how like that mindset of it being a risk that you need to take and then you just kind of push it out into the future? Like, do you see how that's something that's just going to continue to hold you back? Right. So like, what do you think you need to do to make sure that it doesn't? Like, how can we move past this going forward? And then now, this is kind of the core approach, right? A couple bonus tips here is to, let's say like, how can we move past this? Yeah, man. I guess like I just gotta, take action. I just gotta take the shot, right? Let's say like we really want to drive the point home and we really want to help them move past their belief, right? Like we can do most people think X, it's actually Y, right? So like this is a good one. And the reality is like most people think that getting into a business is it's a risk in the sense of like it's a roll of a dice, right? Where we try it and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. When in reality, like that couldn't be further from the case, right? Like what business is if you take a set of actions and steps that have been successful for hundreds of people before you, like if you took those same steps, you can expect to see the same results. So it's like the biggest risk here when it comes to investing into yourself, for example, is just that you don't follow through on it. Like you just don't use the information that you get. Does that make sense? Most people think X, it's actually Y. This is a really good reframe for limiting beliefs, industry misconceptions, etc. Right? Or you can tell a personal / client story, right? Explaining how they overcame the same challenge. Right? So you can tell a personal story. Yeah, man, listen, like I totally get where you're coming from. I remember for me, I used to be afraid of risk for a long time. And for me, it actually held me back for like 10 years of my life. And, in those 10 years, like blah, 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 here's all the bad things that happened. And then how I overcame it was when I shifted my perspective. I started looking at it like this. So let me ask you, man, like, are you willing to shift your perspective in that same way? Are you willing to follow through on your goals? Or are we just going to continue to put up with the same things that we've been putting up with, right? You tell a story like that. I've had videos where I talk about telling stories and what that framework looks like. You can go find those there. Anyways, that's challenge, guys. That's how we do it. Again, very important stage of the call. Get this down. Okay. Consequence. All right. Very, very simple and straightforward. We start out with consequence is kind of related to challenge, right? Where we basically extend consequences of not solving challenge, right? So, right, let's play it out. Let's say you never overcome. Where will you be by XYZ time? Let's play it out, right? Like it's been 2 years now that you've kind of been paralyzed by like this fear of failure. Let's say you never overcome that fear of failure. Like where do you think you're going to be by the time you're 30 if you just keep playing it safe? Yeah, I'm probably going to be like stuck in a 9 to 5, working job, whatever. This is where we play devil's advocate. Okay, well, most people are fine with that. What's so bad about ending up in that position? Really important point here. This shit is really powerful. So yeah, I'll probably be stuck in a 9 to 5, not having the freedom that I want. Okay, sure, man. Well, that's most people's reality, right? Most people are working a 9 to 5, not living the life that they want. What's so bad about ending up in that position? Well, this is why, blah, 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 blah. And then, now we're really getting them to like buy into, I will not accept staying in the same position, right? We've gotten them to take full accountability over their challenges. We've played it out, right? Like where you're going to end up at if we don't overcome these challenges. Well, like what's so bad about being in that position? Like obviously it hasn't been, you haven't been moving with the urgency that you need to already, right? Like what's so bad about ending up there, man? Right? Yeah, well, like this is what's so bad about it. Okay, cool, gotcha. Show the gap. Right? So now what we do here, the rest of this framework is going to be very straightforward. Show the gap. So our goal here is to recap entire, sales call, show understanding, imply solution. Okay, let me explain what I mean. So what we want to do, so sales is a gap, right? Taking our prospect from where they are to where they want to be to help them overcome their challenge that's in the middle with our product, offer, or service. So what we want to do right now is kind of just put it right in front of their face, right? Just like show them, okay, so this is where you are, this is where you want to be, and like this is really the main reason why you're not there. Is that right? So we're going to drop this. Exactly, right? So, okay, let me make sure I'm understanding where you're at. So right now, currently you're working a sales job that, you've been at for a little while and you're capped out in terms of your potential and what you can accomplish there. And what you want is like, you want to be able to get to 20, 25 grand a month, which will allow you to have just a lot more independence and actually take care of the people around you. But the biggest problem is that, these last couple of years, like, yes, you've been a little bit tight on time, but you've also really just been kind of coping with your current situation because it's been hard to step away from it and go after what you really want. And, you've kind of realized that if nothing really changes, then, you're just going to be stuck in the same spot by the time you're 30. So it's like, we're just repeating it all back to them, briefly and concisely, putting it right in their face. Again, we're creating more urgency, making them really feel like, yeah, fuck, like I need to do something about this. I need to move, right? Now, this is where we gain commitment, right? Commitment to overcome limiting belief. Commitment to time / efforts, commitment to personal transformation. You can get your prospect to commit to really whatever you want, right? At the end of the day, like if I say, hey, I will help you get to your goals, I will help you accomplish whatever you want. I'll help you make an infinite amount of money. I'll help you accomplish anything you want. I just need you to do this really hard thing. Are you willing to do it? In 99% of cases, you're going to say yes, right? If I say, hey, bro, I'll show you how to get to 10, 20 grand a month in sales. Like it's a very straightforward process. We've done it with tons of people. However, I'm going to need you to obsess over this craft, and I'm going to need you to live it and breathe it over the course of the next couple months. Is that something that you're willing to do? Like I can ask for a very strong commitment when there is that implied result at the end of it, right? So you want to gain strong commitments here. The goal is to have your prospect commit to everything outside of your program, right? Everything that they're going to need to be successful. This is going to make them more likely to take action on a thing at the end of the call. If they commit to spending the next 6 months all in on, XYZ business model, if they commit to making a personal transformation, if they commit to overcoming their past limiting beliefs, then it's going to be a lot more likely that they say yes when we give them a program which will help them do all of those things, right? So something like, gotcha. And, let me ask you, are you at a place now where you're ready to move past? So when I say something like, okay, cool, man. And listen, are you at a place now where, you're ready to really just stop settling for what you've been settling for and, really go after what you're capable of, right? That would be me directly, you can just gain a commitment around their limiting belief. Hey, and are you ready to move past that fear of failure that's been holding you back these last 2 years and finally start going after what you're capable of? Things like that, right? Also, commitment to time and effort to help you get, XYZ results. We can show you exactly how. We can't do it for you. I'll need you to show up daily for 2 to 3 hours to work on your business. And that's something you're able to do. So this is an important one too, right? The key thing with commitments is you want to lean into the resistance, right? So for example, somebody might have a super busy schedule. And then most closers will just try to avoid that because they're I don't want to talk about this guy's busy schedule because then he's going to think that he's not going to be able to work on this business. So I'm just going to avoid that. And then it becomes the exact reason why they don't move forward, right? Because they're obviously aware that they're busy, right? So we want to lean into that, right? Where it's hey, listen, to help us get you the result that you want, we can show you exactly how, but we can't do it for you. I know you're super busy right now and you have a lot of things going on. How can you find 2 hours on a daily basis to commit to working on this business? Let's plan it out. Where can we find 10 hours a week where you can be on your laptop working on this business consistently to make sure we can get you the result that you want? We want to make sure that this is there. And then even personal transformation, right? This is kind of similar to overcoming the limiting beliefs where it's hey, listen, do you feel you're finally at a point in your life where you're ready to draw a line in the sand, say enough is enough, and actually step into the version of yourself that is capable of accomplishing the goals that you mentioned earlier? All of these questions, these are great and helps us get, move the needle forward. Essentially what we're doing here is we're qualifying our prospect, right? Is we're making them feel that, hey, I have to put in a certain level of effort and sacrifice for me to get that goal, right? Gain hard commitments. Don't bitch out on these. Don't ask for little half-assed commitments. Gain strong ones because of the concept that I explained earlier, okay? Last 2 stages, guys. We're almost there. So self-solution selling. Our goal in this stage, have our prospect define their ideal support system, right? Essentially, have them sell themselves, okay? So we want our prospect to explain exactly what they would need, and then we're just going to give them that, okay? In a lot of cases, when we're in self-solution, they're just going to explain our program to us. And then at that point, it's pretty easy to connect the dots. So question is, okay, sounds like we can help. Just curious. To get you from being completely new to this to being able to make, $20K a month doing this full time in the next 6 months, what would you need from the ideal support system? Right? So there's a little bit of the gap there, right? If you notice that, just to kind of frame the question a little bit better, because I can say, okay, so what would you need from the ideal support system? And I'll say, oh, well, I just need support. I just need guidance, whatever. We want them to get specific about this, right? So, okay, great. Well, sounds like we can help. Just curious. Obviously, you're brand new to this business, and your goal is you want to get to 20 grand a month within the next 6 months. What do you think you would need from like the ideal support system to actually get you there? All right, when we frame it like that, now they're going to be a lot more descriptive about what they actually need, right? And then a lot of the times I'm mirror and defining here. Okay, gotcha. So like you're saying, like you need just kind of some like, accountability and guidance. Okay, and like when you say accountability, like what exactly do you mean by that? Okay. Okay, cool. So accountability, you also want to have like a lot of like group coaching, right? Where you can actually work with a community and get like hands-on guidance, right? Okay, cool. And I guess when you say hands-on guidance, what specifically do you mean by that? I just want to understand. And then we basically have them explain and describe exactly what they're looking for from a perfect support system. And we're going to be keeping in mind some of the things that they mention here, and we're going to be incorporating this into our presentation. Okay. Now, between self-solution and presentation, here's the bridge, right? Okay. From what you mentioned, it seems what we do is pretty closely aligned. I'll get into the program and how it works in a sec. As long as you're confident, how soon are you looking to start? Right? So this is an important question. It's like, okay, cool, gotcha. So from what you mentioned, it seems like what we do is pretty closely aligned. I want to get into the program and how it actually works here in a second. Before I do, like, as long as you're confident with everything that we talk about here, like, how soon are you actually looking to get started on this, right? So we're preventing a lot of the delay objections here, right? And you can even drop a financial qualifier as well, right? Where you're like, in the case that, this feels 100% like the right fit, there is an investment involved. Do you have some savings set to the side to put towards something like this? A lot of the times they'll be like, well, how much does it cost? I would be upfront with it, right? This question right here, I would really only ask if like maybe you're unsure of if they actually have the investment. If there's some kind of indication that, they're like super tight financially, I'll drop a financial qualifier before I get into the presentation. Not 100% necessary though, but I do like having conversations about the money before the presentation, right? There's a lot of people out there who are like really hardcore, like, no, you cannot tell them how much it costs until you break down the presentation. But the problem with that is when you leave the price drop for the end of the call, then it's like when you're explaining your entire presentation here, all they're thinking about is like, how much does this cost? How much does this cost? That's the only thing that's on their mind. And then when you drop the price, it's like this shock to them, right? There's always like a little bit of price shock. So I would much rather prefer being like, hey, well, obviously, I want to explain how the program works and everything that's involved. But just to give you a heads up, when it comes to the investment for everything, it would be X amount of dollars. Is that something that you're comfortable with? Okay, not really. I probably need some time. Okay, cool. Well, like, again, we do need to obviously talk about the details and everything that's in there. But like, if we were to potentially even like set up a plan for you to break that up, like, would that help you? Yes, it would, or no, it wouldn't. Okay, great. Well, let's do this first. Let me give you a little bit of background in terms of how our program works, and then we get into the presentation. So I'm not going to put that into the script, but I would encourage you, like, feel free to have the financial conversation before you get into the presentation, right? Like, by this point, your prospect should absolutely be sold. They should have a very good understanding of what you are all about. They should feel inspired and ready to take action if you followed this process correctly. And, this will just help you a lot, just make the rest of the call a lot easier, prevent a lot of objections, etc. Right? Cool. Now, let's get into presentation, okay? Our goal in our presentation is to bridge the gap, right, from where they are and where they want to be, right? We want to explain exactly how what our offer does gets them from their current state to their desired outcome. And really, we want to exceed expectations, right? So they already know that you're going to tell them about like your freaking coaching program, and they get the basics of like how coaching programs actually work, right? So a lot of these closers out here, like their presentations just do nothing for them because they're just saying what it is, and it's not really exceeding any type of expectation. So let me show you exactly how you would go about doing this. Okay, so the opener is going to go exactly like this, all right? Let me go through the opener and then you'll see what I mean, right? So, okay, great. Well, listen, I think we can help you, but again, I just want to be really clear about what's going to be involved in this training. And I want you to understand exactly what needs to happen on your end for you to be able to see the best results with this. As long as we're on the same page with all of it, awesome. We can talk about next steps going forward. So as opposed to, okay, great, let me explain exactly how our program works, and then we'll talk about next steps. Essentially, what I'm implying is, hey, our program works very well. And what I want to do is I want to explain exactly what needs to happen on your side for it to work for you. And then as long as we're on the same page with all those things, awesome, we can talk about the next steps going forward, right? Really good opener. I love this frame. Feel free to steal that. Now, there's a couple of steps to our presentation. First, we're going to start out with the problem solution bridge. Steps to success, deliverables, recap, and price drop. Right, so I'll break down this presentation as if it was, my sales program. That way, this makes sense. But you can apply this to, really any scenario, right? So let me just copy and paste this for you guys. I don't want to type this out. So this right here is the problem solution bridge. What we're doing, this problem solution bridge, really our goal is to blow our prospect's mind in like 2 sentences. This sentence alone, when you hit it correctly, is basically what your prospect is buying. Okay, so there's a bunch of brackets in here. So when it comes to getting to goal, most people in industry never get there. And the reason why is challenge, resulting in pain, resulting in a consequence of an action. So instead, what we do is unique selling proposition, allowing you to benefit, resulting in benefit, leading you to get to goal without pain, right? So let me give you an example of what that would actually sound like, right? So for example, when it comes to getting to 20 grand a month in commissions, most people in the high ticket sales industry never get there. And the reason why is because they're following surface level information, outdated processes, resulting in them never being able to get good at the skills or land the jobs that they want, resulting in, time passing by and ultimately them quitting. Instead, what we do is we take our closers through a 3 to 4 week intensive training process, allowing them to, number one, land quality jobs and actually perform when they land those jobs, leading them to be able to accomplish $10,000 a month within their first few months and positioning them for long-term success in our industry without the years of bouncing around from garbage appointment setting offers, making $1,000 a month. Does that make sense? So something exactly like that. And what you can do is you can just input your industry-specific goals, industries, challenge resulting in pain, unique selling proposition. That sentence alone, what it does is I explain, number one, why most people don't get to the desired outcome. And number two is I explain exactly how our program is uniquely built to overcome why most people never get to the outcome, which positions, really success as almost a certainty. Okay, feel free to rewind that. And I would encourage you to type this out in terms of how you'd apply that to your offer. Because once they hear that, they're going to be like, holy shit, like, wow, this guy just spoke exactly to my problem. And he just explained exactly how his thing gets me to my goal in like literally 2 sentences. Now, the rest of our presentation is really just going to back up that initial statement, right? So like steps to success, right? Like number one would be, training. Number two would be, for sales training, right? For example, would be landing a job. Number three would be, scaling your commissions, right? So I'd be like, okay, great. So when it comes to getting to 20 grand a month in high ticket sales, like most people in our space never really get there. And the reason why is because they're following outdated sales strategies. They have no idea how to actually land a job, resulting in them giving up before they even start. So instead, what we do, we take you through 3 to 4 weeks of intensive training, allowing you to get really good at sales in a short amount of time, then allowing you to land the kind of jobs that are going to pay you the commissions that you want, helping you hit that $10,000 a month goal within your first few months without dealing with all the bullshit and all the years of trial and error that most people experience. So the way that we actually accomplish that is with 3 main steps. Number one is training, right? We take you through 3 to 4 weeks of live hands-on training, role-playing every possible scenario that you're ever going to see. Number two, once you've developed the skills, on your 3rd and 4th week, we're going to give you access to job opportunities that you wouldn't be able to find on your own. We're going to take you through the entire interviewing process, taking you through, applying, submitting your Loom video, prepping you for the interview, and ultimately landing the role. And then finally, the last step is going to be scaling your commissions. After you've landed the job, how do you actually perform long-term, right? So what we do at this point is, we hook you up with all of the industry standard SOPs that all of our closers use to identify their weak points and to continue developing their skill set, allowing them to, in a lot of cases within their first couple months, double or triple their commissions. Okay. That's really where we want to get you to. Does all of that make sense? Yes, it does. Great. So what do you get access to, right? So now we talk about the deliverables, right? So we've just explained like the core steps to get you from point A to point B. Now we get into the deliverables of what you're actually offering. So you want to use the framework of deliverable benefit, okay? So for example, you'll have group coaching. I would explain group coaching as I would say, okay, great. So, we do group coaching 5 days a week, basically every single day, Monday through Friday. That's the deliverable as I'm explaining what it is. Group coaching 5 days a week, allowing you to, develop a consistent training routine, helping you get better and better at sales and get direct feedback from myself on a daily basis. That would be the benefit of group coaching, right? There's going to be group coaching. There's going to be, community, there's basically any high ticket offer, there's course. So next thing you're going to get access to is our private community. So, it's really important that on your journey that you're meeting and networking with other people who have already accomplished some of your goals and people who are on the journey with you. So we're going to be adding you into a private group where you're going to be able to build connections, do role plays, build your network, ultimately allowing you to, achieve your goals and success, a lot faster than you would just doing this completely on your own. And then you're going to have everything that we train and teach in video formats. You're going to have a course portal where you have all the videos that you can go through, reference, and get down notes on. Again, that's the deliverable. This is basically going to give you one source of information for you to always be able to refer back to when you're starting and throughout your career. That way you never have to get stuck on YouTube or going through a bunch of useless information, but you're going to have everything that you need that you can go back to at any given moment throughout your entire career. Does that make sense? Great. Right? That's roughly how presentation goes through. Again, I have specific videos that go deep into presentation. You can find them somewhere on my channel. From here, now we get into the recap, recap deliverables quickly, right? So does all that make sense? Great. So just to recap everything, what you're going to be getting access to is 5 group calls a week, access to a community. You're going to have everything broken down in a course. We're going to help you, land jobs and really work with you through that whole process. And when it comes to the investment, it's just going to be a one-time fee of X, Y, and Z, like we kind of spoke about earlier. Very simple price drop when it comes to the Actually, hang on. Let me back up a little bit, right? So we recap deliverables quickly. After we recap the deliverables, right, we want to do a temperature check, right? So from everything I just described, do you feel you would have what you need to get to your goals? So temperature check, we just want to gauge this really quick, right? See where they're at, what they're thinking. If they have any questions, they'll ask them. Really, we just want to gain a quick commitment. Do you feel like you'd have everything that you need to get to your goals? Yes, I do. Sounds really awesome. I'd love to be a part of it. Okay, great. So when it comes to investment, to get access to everything for, XYZ time, right? It's like to get full access to everything for the next 6 months, just a one-time fee of, X $1,000, right? So when it comes to investment, just a one-time fee of $5K. Boom. And then we get into objection handling. Objection handling, this video has already been long enough. We're not going to get into that in this video. This is our high ticket sales framework, guys. And the cool thing with this framework, again, is whenever you mess up on a call, it's always a symptom of a mistake that you made earlier on in the sales conversation, right? This entire framework is built to, allow you to, take full authority, find the deep pains that your prospect needs to solve, figure out where they want to go exactly, challenge exactly why they have not been able to get there, while at the same time preventing all future objections from coming up. Build more urgency with consequence, gain commitments to them actually making the change they need to make, and get them to sell themselves in terms of the support system that they would actually need. And then hitting them with a banger presentation that perfectly bridges the gap between where they are and where they want to go. This is something that over the last 5-6 years, we've really fine-tuned and mastered every single stage of this process. And like I mentioned, and like I kind of already touched on, we do train closers on this exact process and get them confident with it in a matter of a couple weeks, allowing them to, land significantly higher quality jobs than they'd be able to without it, and ultimately allowing them to make a lot more money a lot faster than they would just trying to figure out all this shit on their own. If that's something that you want to be a part of, awesome. Like I said, there's a link down below in the description that explains exactly how that process works. And if it's something you want to be a part of, great. You can schedule a call with me where we'll go over your situation. Obviously, make sure it makes sense. Otherwise, feel free to, stick around if you're just taking the free path. Good luck out there. We have tons of content which will help you do that. So feel free to continue checking out more of my stuff. That's all for this video, guys. I hope you got value. And you know what? I'll include some kind of document in the description down below. We actually give away this entire framework completely for free in a video course. Okay, it's about 5 hours long. You can go pick that up and learn more, go deeper. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.